thank you for those of us that we do know that are joining us, and we are recording, so we can share this with people in the future. But Darcy and I are super excited just to partner on this conversation. We both have spent a lot of time in the world of nonprofits, and we're both very much asked, "Hey, if I was to start a nonprofit, what should I do?" And then we both give like this big long story because it's not an easy question to answer. So we thought, why don't we record a webinar that gives some of the ins and outs? So obviously it's only an hour, so we'll give you some tips and then ways to stay connected with us. So Darcy Schatz, thank you for joining me as we share this story.
I'm excited to be here. Yes, yes, let's do it. Let's talk.
Awesome. So our hope is today, I'm going to do a brief intro as to where I come into play, like from in the nonprofit space. And so do a little intro for myself. Darcy will do an intro, and then we're both going to go through from our perspectives, kind of our tips and advice. Definitely open to questions along the way as well. So feel free to ask questions, put questions in the chat. At the end, we will open it up to Q&A, and then we'll make sure you know how to get in touch with us so that you can stay connected. Sound good? Awesome. So hopefully you're here because you're like, I might be thinking of starting a nonprofit, or you started one in the past few years, and are running and figuring out like, oh my gosh, I might need some additional help and support and resources, but I don't know where to turn to. So that was kind of the audience that we were hoping for. And so I want to share just a little bit about me and my journey. So I serve as the president of Simon Says Give, which is a nonprofit that's based in Minnesota. We started in 2011, so we've been around for a little while. And in my title here, I have mom to Mandy because Mandy was actually the founder of our nonprofit. So when she was 8, she had big ideas on what she wanted to do and how she wanted to impact children of her community. And at 8, you can't do that all by yourself. So I had to lean in and help her, and have had some just extraordinary people along the way. A few of you are here on this webinar, including my co-presenter, Darcy. So I'm here to share just a little bit about the journey that we went through from a Simon Says Give perspective. And then I also have kind of a unique spin on it, because while we were launching the nonprofit and running fast there, I also had left my big corporate job and started my own consulting firm, which at the time was actually Simon and Associates. And then we DBA'd as Simon Says Lead, and I'm about to launch Simon Says HR. So Mandy and I are just really lucky to have a fun last name that we can play on from a marketing perspective. So share a little bit about that journey as well. And then really to share with you, I had zero nonprofit background until I was like starting a nonprofit. The only thing I had time for in my big corporate job, since I was traveling a lot, was not even to volunteer because I was on the road a lot. I did donate and write checks occasionally, but knew nothing about running a nonprofit. So really from the ground up, when we started 13 years ago. So just share some of those tips and tricks as well. So that is a little bit about who I am. And then just, really why I wanted to do this is share that knowledge. For us to that getting past the 5-year mark and then the 10-year mark, there are some milestones that we really saw kind of change as we went through some of those journeys, and we'll be excited to hit a 15-year milestone soon. But just want to share those successes with you and some of those things that happened during those milestones. And then really, again, just, my transferable skills coming from corporate and how I applied them in our nonprofit. And here just to help you be successful in whatever your amazing mission is. So that's a little bit about me. So now I'm going to turn it over to Darcy.
Hi, I'm Darcy Schatz. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Nonprofit Ops Pro, which does exactly that. We specialize in the back end, boring day-to-day nuts and bolts of the organization, helping nonprofits be more effective and efficient in the work that they do. We provide administrative support, consulting services, coaching, workshops, lots of different things, as well as our website has a vast amount of free resources for organizations. My piece of this is why I'm here is to really bring some of this expertise to you all, because I have been in many different roles within organizations. I've never started my own nonprofit. That's why Dina's here, is that expertise. But I have worked in lots of different roles with organizations, which brings a great perspective for me and the work that we do with organizations, because I can see it see the problems and solutions from different viewpoints. And I've been with nonprofits since I joined my first 4-H club at age 8. So this has been a really long, uh, lifelong passion for me. And I'm definitely an operations nerd. So as far as why I'm here, which we'll see on the next slide, there's a lot to know and learn about running a nonprofit. Dina's going to talk about the startup and pieces of it, and then my hope for this time that I have with you here today is to help you learn some lessons and get information so that you don't need to hire me sometime down the road. So I want you to get set up well. I want you to get set up for growth. I want you to get set up for success, because there's just a lot to know and learn, and you don't know what you don't know. It's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to skip this boring back office stuff because it's fun to do the program work and do your mission and do that. But you got to do the back end boring stuff as well. That's actually what allows you to do the rest of the great programming and really advance your mission. And just like Dina, I'm here because I really want you to succeed in and just do some good in the world.
Yeah, which is so fun because there's so many parallels, right? Like to for-profit and nonprofit, the back end boring stuff to some, that also is just so critical, because often that's that's everything from all the financials, the reporting, the databases, integrity of data, all that kind of stuff. So lots of parallels there. So I'll start off with my, just couple tips and things. And then again, as there's questions. So Kristen, if anybody puts anything in the chat, if you want to just holler, but feel free to take yourself off of mic as well. Anybody that wants to just ask me questions. So my first tip really is when we started the nonprofit, we had to create a board of directors because you have to have that in a nonprofit. And I didn't know any different. So as I looked around the table of who I was going to orchestrate sitting at that table, I had an attorney, I had an accountant, I had somebody who came since we were youth based. I had somebody who was very youth based in nonprofit space. So I really looked at, who we had around the table, from the secretary to the treasurer, just ensuring that I had those right people. Having an attorney on the board has been extraordinarily helpful, because he and his firm have done things for us from a pro bono perspective. We haven't needed a ton of legal support and help, but it's sure been nice to have that. So I just, again, from a business acumen perspective, just thought that's what you do. And I went to a Minnesota Nonprofit Council session early on, and it was about building your board of directors and kind of networking around the tables. And somebody said, like, oh my gosh, how did you know to do that? Because, I didn't even know to do that. So again, one of my best practices is really thinking through who are your board of advisors. You're going to get a lot of people that say, oh, I'd love to be on your board and help. But they need to play a key role. What is that role? There is a difference between a working board and truly 100% volunteer board as well. So our board early on was definitely more of a working board. They definitely were helping us. They were spending time on helping us launch the nonprofit. Year 14 now, we still have some board of directors. We've had to continue to rewrite our bylaws because we have board of directors that don't want to leave. And so we've had to put some new things in there about that, which has been great. But our board of directors today aren't as much of a working board. So the example of the attorney, You know, maybe once or twice a year, there might be something that comes up that we need his help on. But we're not going back to him all the time to, you know, to gain help and support. So board of directors, so we've just been really honored, right? And we take that very seriously. So the other thing that I would say is our nonprofit, which so many nonprofits are, you know, tied to that personal mission, like why are we doing what we're doing? And ours was because a 8-year-old little girl had a dream and a vision. And so we also were very protective of who we invited to the board. We do have in our bylaws that there always will be a Simon, somebody from our family that sits on the board. We're not a family foundation. But we always want to make sure that we have somebody from the Simon family that is on the board of directors. So just really, again, kind of thinking through who is on your board, why are they on your board, and what roles and what could they provide back to you. So question on board of directors, anything?
Dina, I don't see a hand raise option on here, so do you want me to put it in the
Sure.
chat or do you just want me to interrupt?
You interrupt.
Okay, so I'm only a year and a half, almost 2 years into this, but it seems like my board that we've put together is like 50% working and 50% volunteer. And those ones that are still in the volunteer mode are really, I see really important to us.
Yep.
If nothing else, in name recognition to get us to a point where we're taken seriously.
Yes.
But maybe over the course of the next couple of years or year or 6 months, we need to start shifting those people because I need more. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how do you even tackle that? Or
Yeah.
do you just let it go by attrition, like I'm afraid I'll be in a situation like you and they just never leave.
Yeah. So we
And this
had,
is all private, right, everybody?
what's that?
So this conversation is really kind of private, right?
Well, we are recording, but we
I
can cut
know, I
it out
know.
if you would like.
Yeah, no, we're good.
So it is a challenge for, right? So that relationship, so how we've handled it is every year around this time, I check back in with the board and say, you know, I'm checking in. Are you still good to stay into the next year?
Do you do
And
that individually?
I do. Yeah, I do it individually. We've never had a situation where and some boards will differ. We've never had the situation where we wanted somebody off the board because they, you know, just weren't
Sure,
participating or something was going on. Um, we have had people fall off the board, definitely as far as life change. They've
yeah,
changed jobs, they've moved, and so we've had attrition there. One we've had members join our board thinking that they were really excited and want to be a part of it, and then just didn't have the time for it. So one of the things we did there, and again, we have somewhat of a uniqueness, but we asked them to actually spend some time volunteering and being a part around us and being part of the mission
sure.
before before we actually even entertained them sitting on the board.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll move on to tip 2. So setting up your 501(c)(3, so I know Darcy has some probably suggestions around this as well. I'll just share our journey. So this again goes back 14 years ago, and I didn't know what we were doing, and I didn't have like our board member who is an attorney on our board at the time. So I actually used like Rocket Lawyer, I think is what I used, and they helped us move through the process very quickly and efficiently. And so just figuring out, you know, again, how you get up through all the legal paperwork. That is also what led us to having to pick who we were having on the board because you have to establish when you're filing your paperwork, you know, who are your board members and so that made us pick our board. But, you know, getting through that process, I do hear can be lengthy. I also know that living in the state of Minnesota, so we do have other people on, I know from different states, and different states have some different complexities. And so we were just super fortunate to actually move through that process pretty quickly. A couple other things in there, and a couple of us were chatting before. If you want to move forward and you don't have your 501c3 set up yet, finding a fiscal sponsor or somebody you could partner with as you're talking and getting things going. There can be ways to partner with others while you're getting through the muck of the paperwork. And Darcy, do you have any like specific feedback on 501c3 paperwork?
I'll just note that you can solicit donations while your 501c while your 1023 is the IRS paperwork is that's the form that you need to file. So you can solicit donations while you're waiting for that to be processed. It can take anywhere from 6 weeks to like 6 months, and so you just can't give any um, tax deduction um, receipts for anything until you get that 501c3 letter, but then you can backdate those donation receipts.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for that. And that was exactly our experience. My tip 3, so the vision, mission, values, impact that you want to have in the world. So again, what you set out to do could possibly change, just like in a for-profit business. But getting clear on what it is, your mission, your vision, your values. We did have the blessing of having a EOS implementer on our board originally. So for those of you that don't know what EOS is, it's Entrepreneurial Operating System. And those individuals really help businesses get clarity on what is it that you're trying to do, what is your vision and your mission and your values. And so we settled on what ours were pretty early on, and we check in on our vision, mission, and values on a regular basis. And they haven't changed. And might they change down the line? Yes. But just again, kind of going back to why are we here? What are we trying to do? And what's our impact? Our impact when we originally started out, how we wanted to impact kids in the community, has absolutely evolved in good ways. We've also have had different chapters that have popped up. But really just being crystal clear as what is it that we're trying to accomplish so that our message is really clear and people know why to partner with us. And then just yearly checking back in on it to make sure that it still aligns is really that message. And then my final tip here is on marketing. So I grew up more on the sales side, and I remember as a sales individual when I learned how sales and marketing could blend together. And so huge fan of marketing. And marketing can be very, very overwhelming, especially to a startup, nonprofit on, okay, what platforms do I need to be on? What do I need to be doing? And so my marketing tip for you is to pick some lanes and just be good at it. Don't feel you have to be everywhere on everything. We immediately did when we started out, we got a Twitter account, we got YouTube, we got Facebook, we got Instagram, we got Pinterest, we got all the stuff. Since we had youth involved, I think we have a Snapchat, right? Like, so there's all these different media platforms. And we really just spent time on, we have a robust email list, so an email marketing list that we're communicating to our network and our donors, our volunteers. And then we did spend a lot of time on Facebook. So we have over 10,000 followers on Facebook. That was really kind of the platform that we set out to be visible on. But we haven't tweeted in years, and I know it's not even called Twitter anymore. We do a little bit on Instagram, but again, we couldn't be everywhere. So picking a couple lanes, but really being crystal clear back again to our messaging on, what is it that we're trying to communicate knowing who our audiences are. So we do have donors we're trying to reach, we have volunteers we're trying to reach, and then certainly the impact to the community and the kids and the families that we've supported. We want to continue to market and be, visible to them. So just having that marketing strategy. So I think those are my tips. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Darcy? Oh, thank you. Our website. Yes. I didn't even talk about that. So, thank you, Darcy. So, on our website, just really quickly, when Mandy wanted to start the nonprofit, that was actually the first thing to say, well, we're going to need to have a website presence. And so we found somebody who helped us build our website, who has stayed a strategic partner to us all these years. And we then said, okay, behind the scenes, we need to go find ways to share our stories. So for us, it was celebrating kids' birthdays. So we found families initially to engage with so that we had some of that content to be able to put out on our website. And our website is pretty fluid. Kristen on the team here spends time going through it, making sure that it's updated on a regular basis.
Dina, you have a question on the chat about who you used for your website and what is on it.
Yeah. So on our website, so love for you to go check it out at simonsaysgive.org. We had Irish Titan, which is a firm here in Minnesota, help us create our website. And they did the first original website with Mandy literally when she was 8 years old. So it was super fun to see what that first version of our website was. During the pandemic, we did upgrade it and refresh it. So it is a newer website in the last 4 years. But the first website lasted for at least 10 years. And then we refreshed it and can continue to do that for a while. We did use, we're on a WordPress site. And I know that, there are services out there. Darcy, I think you have a suggestion on the TechSoup. I mean, there's organizations that also do like discounted, even website stuff like hosting, but different technologies.
Yep, so I would, there aren't going to be any free ones. There aren't going to be any free website hosting, but there is going to be very low cost ones like Wix is that's a really low cost option for just a down and dirty website, put a couple of pages up there, and then you're able to have that presence and build it from there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, Darcy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, yay, let's talk operations. Okay, so my first tip, so all of these, I have 4 tips for y'all. All of these come from the work that I do every day with organizations, not only with mine. I'm the executive director for 3 organizations, in addition to running the consulting business workshops and things like that. So these are tips that I have seen over and over and over and over again. So these are tips that I've seen over and over and over again with organizations. And so even if you have already gone past some of this, you're already an organization that has been running for a couple of years, you can, there's gonna be some tools in here and some tips that will be useful for you. My first big one that I see cause problems for people is separating contact information from the organization. So setting up a separate mailing address. So all of these pieces of it, if you're just starting out, do these things. We'll also talk about how you can retroactively fix some of this if you need to. But the idea is that you have to separate, even if you're the founder, you have to separate yourself from the organization. They are 2 different things. The organization you started has its own EIN number. It has its own thing. You have your social security number. Your organization has its own EIN number. They're 2 separate things. And the more that you can separate those things, the better you're going to set your organization up for really long-term success. So that way it lives without you, it lives, and grows in addition to the work that you put in it as well as everybody else. So mailing address, it's tempting to use your own mailing address, email, phone number, things like that when you're setting things up. I beg of you, do not do this. Get a PO box, go get a UPS box. I know they cost money, but it will be worth it because you will have that separation and you will be able to pass off information to other people rather than having those things come to your home all the time. Especially for the mailing address, a lot of information that you publish when you are registering your organization is public information. And you do not want your personal email, phone number, and mailing address, home address, on any public documents. So get something else, someplace else to send all that mail. For email, you can just get a free email like yournonprofit@gmail.com and use that for as long as you need to. It's going to look fine. No one's going to think you're not real, all that sort of thing. Just but don't use your personal email for anything connected to the nonprofit. You can also apply for Google Workspace once you have your EIN and set up as a 501c3. You can get a free Google Workspace account, and then you have all the bells and whistles. And you can do then like John Smith at yournonprofit.com. And it's going to be a little more professional and things like that. You'll be able to add more email addresses, fun stuff like that. But while you're starting off, just get a basic email address. The other piece of that we're going to talk about in the next tip, but that's why you want a separate email address.
Yeah.
Same thing for separate phone number. It is handy to have donors calling you on your cell phone and asking if they can mail you a $10,000 check. But what you really want them to do is call a organization phone number. You can use Google Voice. It's $6 a month. If you don't have Google, if you don't have Google Workspace, you can use, you can just get a burner phone, go to Walmart, get a burner phone, use that phone number and add minutes to it as you need to. Those are really low cost options, but you want to have a professional presence as much as you can, even as you're just starting up. But these are really important pieces to set up because you are setting up your organization separate from you. And that's what these pieces are about.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions about that?
Yeah, well, let's see if there's questions. And I would just share, so we early on went to the US Post Office and have a PO box, which is great. Like we did that. I do wish, because I'm also at the UPS store often, doing things. I do wish, because you can have a UPS box as well. I do wish that we would have actually used the UPS store, like their mailbox system, because it's a street address. It's not a PO box. You can also build a relationship. The UPS people know me very well, to hold packages, things of that nature. So we're not going to change it 14 years later because everybody knows our PO box number and I just don't want to go through that process. But that's a piece of my advice on here is, that is one thing I do wish that we did. But everything else that you have here, I absolutely agree with.
Yeah, so and there was a question if we can change this after you've already set it up. Sure can. That's just a change of address form for the USPS, and start just funneling mail there. Put it on your website. All that sort of fun stuff. It's just like you're just doing a change of address like you would if you moved yourself.
Yeah, the one thing I would also say is when you do file your 990 or your easy, your tax forms and stuff is we've had some challenges where if we didn't pay attention, because we did have a physical office for a while as well. So being consistent in the address that you use for everything would be a great tip.
Yes, thank you, Dina. The IRS will notice if the address that on the 990 is different than the one that they have on file, and they will assume the one in the 990 is your new address, and then you'll get a letter from the IRS. Don't freak out if it's a thin little letter. It's fine. You open it up, it'll say we updated your address, and so. But you can also just contact the IRS to make any address changes. That is the one thing that's really easy with the IRS.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, tip number 2, the organization owns everything. This is back to my earlier point about this, is that the organization is separate from you. And you want to be able to have anyone come into your organization, all your new board members, staff, as you grow, and have the right people have access to the right things. And that means you may not store items on your personal laptop. That means you need to store them in whatever cloud system that you've got set up. So remember back at the last slide where I had you set up a Google Workspace, or just even get the, yournonprofit@gmail.com. All of that comes with Google Drive, which is plenty secure. And you're going to start creating folders in that Google Drive for all the things with your nonprofit. And you're going to store things in there. You're going to store your 990s, your EINs, your board directories, your insurance information, all of that, everything, your program plans, budgets, all of that fun stuff is going to live in whatever cloud system you want to set up, as opposed to on your laptop. And I've listed a few items here. So Google Drive is the free one that will come with the Gmail. OneDrive is the Microsoft. If you have Microsoft Outlook system, you have OneDrive. Box is a Box is a like Dropbox. It has a free level, and then it has additional paid levels. Dropbox is another one people are familiar with, and then SharePoint is a purchase as well. Yes, Michelle.
Uh-oh, I forgot what I was gonna ask. Oh my God.
Oh, you yell it out.
I was trying to listen to you and not think about what I was gonna say. I'll think about it and I'll ask.
Yeah, no problem. But the point of this, I have, again, if I had a nickel for every time I came into an organization and who would ask me to come in for consulting work, or we took them on as an administrative support client, and I said, great, like where are the files? And they said, oh, well, the previous administrator had them on their laptop, and Judy over here, she's got some for this committee, and Catherine over here, she's got other ones for something else. So that's where they are. And then we don't know what the rest of them are. So yeah, Michelle.
Who should have access to those?
So yes, great question. So the email that you set up for your organization, the very first email that you are setting up for your organization, is, if you're going to use a Gmail, like a straight Gmail account, it is dogpawrescue@gmail.com. And it's going to be some sort of generic email like that is associated with your organization. If you get a Google Workspace or a Microsoft Office account, things like that, then you're going to do like info@dogpawrescue.org or admin@dogpawrescue.org, some kind of generic email like that. That is the email that owns all of your files, all of them.
Like as an admin, yeah.
Yep, an admin or an info, some generic one that everybody has access to, everybody in the organization can log into. But that's the email, that's the central administrative email for the organization, and all the files are stored with that email.
When you say everyone can access that, they would need to access it with that email, and then they would.
Couple different ways to do that. They could either log in with that email, or in the situation like Google Drive and Dropbox and things like that, when you're in Google Drive, you can easily share folders and files and things like that out that way. But the idea being that everything is only stored with one organization, with one email.
And Michelle, like you can lock down, like when you were with Simon Says Give and part of our birthday celebration committee, like we gave you access in SharePoint. You can do the same in Dropbox or in Google, any of them, where certain folders, different people have access to.
Right,
so
okay.
you as a co-founder for your nonprofit, like you and your co-founder, and whether there's somebody else on the board, that knows how to get into this admin portal, And then you can give permissions to people based on what their level of knowledge should be. If you know, if they don't have access to all of the confidential information, but you can set up those permissions.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Dina.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Absolutely. Okay. So the point being, my last point being about that, the files stay with the organization. They're not, if you create a, like D shots at dogpawrescue.org, I can store files in my drive, but I better share them with that info at. But the better practice is for me to log in with the info at dogpawrescue.org and upload all the files from there. So that's the best practice, is to have that one email store everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about that piece? Otherwise, we're on to the really exciting things, money and knowing where it is and how much you have and fun things like that. Okay, so this is an area in which people get really whacked out because it says the word money in it. But whether you are just starting out or whether you are some ways down the road in your organization, it's fine. All you want to, it's going to be okay. You just need some way to track where things are and what's happening. You don't have to have QuickBooks or any sort of fancy thing like that unless you really want it. If you are one of those money nerds or have a bookkeeper on your board or an accountant or somebody, great, let them do QuickBooks. Do not buy regular QuickBooks. Go to TechSoup.com, make yourself a free account, buy QuickBooks online, 5-user license for $75 a year. Do that. Don't do the regular subscription, because you can. Okay, if you have already done that, you can still go online and get the account from TechSoup, and then you can have your accountant create a new company and transfer the information. I'm in the middle of doing that right now with one of my clients. So if you're already down that road, don't worry about it. You can still stop paying all those high fees and just do the $75 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, if you are not the QuickBooks person, spreadsheets, just use a spreadsheet. That's all you need. You're just starting out. You just need to know where your money is and where how much is coming in, and that's it. That's really all you're tracking for a while. You want to make sure you're tracking donations, because you are required as a 501c to give those donation receipts, and you could just email those manually. Set up a little template in Word or in your email, put in the information, send it out once you get the donation. You're tracking income, you're tracking expenses. That's all you're doing for a while. Once you get more sophisticated, if you get grants and things like that, that's the point where you are going to start wanting to work with a bookkeeper and accountant, especially one who has nonprofit experience. There's a list of those people on my website in the employee referral hub. You can find somebody who works with it, but I have had 3 organizations where I have been hired to redo their 1023 because they lost their 501c3, because their accountant, who was not a nonprofit accountant, said, "You're a nonprofit, you don't need to file anything with the IRS." And after 3 years, you lose that 501c3 and you have to start from scratch with the IRS. So get somebody to help you with your money who knows nonprofits. They know how to track, they know how to track grants. They know how they know how to simplify QuickBooks for you so that you can take out all of those items from the chart of accounts that don't apply to your organization, because it's a nonprofit, it's not a for-profit. They can really just help you present things in a way that allow you and your board to understand what's happening with your money and where it's going. Have a basic budget. You at the beginning, you really won't have any budget because you don't have any money. You're just kind of getting income. You don't really know how much things are spent. But keeping track of that information in your spreadsheet will allow you to start a basic budget. How much you're spending on the website, sorry, how much you spending on your programming, how much income, donations do you have, grant income, things like that. So creating that budget then will help you figure out when you can grow your grow your programming and when.
Yeah.
Bank or credit union, pros and cons either way. I've got a little blog post on my website if you want to hear my ramblings about that. There are pros and cons to each. So just take a look at that, make the best decision for you, but there's some things to think about with that, especially if you are remote organization, if you have volunteer staff, board members that are not in the same city, there's some considerations there. Considerations about how much you can deposit, considerations about wire transfers in and out, how much, what those caps are for banks and credit unions. So, take a look at the blog post and make your own best decision. And truly, like, the decision that you make for that, just if you don't like the one that you're at, just move your money. Just move it. Find a better financial organization that really works for your needs. And have a minimum of 2 people watching the money. That is, you can set up, that's why spreadsheets, you can set a spreadsheet up in Google Drive that tracks the income and expenses and deposits and all that sort of fun thing. And that is a couple people watching the money. You want to be really responsible. In fact, as a board member, if you are a board member, or as a new founder, you probably are, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your organization to handle the money wisely. And that includes being really smart about who is watching it. It's not a matter of trust. It's not a matter of, your best friends are on the board and all. It's not about that. It's about your legal responsibility to this organization to have a couple people watching the money. Yeah. Okay. Any questions about that fun topic? Okay, let's move on then.
Yeah. I just want to say really quickly, so absolutely we started with a spreadsheet. We absolutely are on QuickBooks. We love TechSoup. So if you don't know about TechSoup, know about TechSoup. Certainly our budget. The other piece on the accountant side is we found an accounting firm. I'm not going to share who because I don't want you to call them, who actually does do our 990 for pro bono. And we do file for an extension every year just because they, need to get all their paying customers and their taxes filed. So we just file for an extension and they get to it when they need to get to it before the deadline. So again, be asking for those. And then Darcy, I totally agree with you. We started with a local, not a credit union, but a local community bank because of the banking relationship. And then when we went to chapters and we needed to have insight into what was going on, we went to a more major bank that we still felt we had local relationships with. And we have 3 people watching the money. So I love love all this.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. Okay, so my last bit is less technical and less kind of nuts and bolts sort of thing, but I think really important overall. And again, all of these are based on my experience with all the nonprofits that I have been working with for years and years. I see these same things over and over again. So set boundaries. I know that's it's easy. I mean, you're starting, I get it. I get it. You're starting this thing that you love and you're excited about it and you're going to change the world. And people need it. And I get it. But just like with everything else, just like work, just like, anything else, you have to set some boundaries for yourself, for the organization. That's going to help the organization. That's going to help give you some perspective in your day-to-day. And it's going to be helpful for other members of your organization to allow them the time and space to step in and assist with the organization as well. Like you as the founder or the whatever can't do it all. You shouldn't be doing it all. I've seen more organizations fail when they had one person, mostly the founder, who was trying to do everything. And they didn't allow the time and space for other people to come in and really help with the organization. So set some boundaries for yourself. Track tasks. You just a notebook, get a pen. That's going to be fine. Just start with that. Yep. There are lots of free resources out there, like Asana and Trello. Actually, like most time tracking or task tracking software like those, or project management software, have a free level. You can start tracking things like that. As you get more sophisticated, as you have more people involved in the organization, you can set up those systems so everybody knows who's on first and who's doing what, and making sure the organization is running. But you do need to track the tasks in some format so that you know when your 990 when your 990 is due. You need to know when your yearly state renewal is due. Some states send you reminders, some do not. So you need to know when those need to be renewed. It's great to set some deadlines for, you need to set tasks for, if you're planning a fundraiser, that's going to be a whole set of tasks. You need to know kind of what's going on where. So track tasks in whatever format you love. Okay, and staying focused. This is a big one, which I know kind of sounds kind of strange that I'm encouraging people to stay focused in their organization, but like in many things, you hear what someone else is doing, you see what another organization is doing, you hear about the organization that's that has received a huge grant from what's her name, Mackenzie, whatever. Yep. And so the temptation is to follow that squirrel or shiny object or whatever. And so I would encourage you to stay focused. You know what you do. You know why you started this organization. Dina talked earlier about mission, values, and knowing why you exist and why you started this organization. Nonprofits are a marathon. They are not a sprint. And you are trying to build something that you want to be here 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 150 years from now. And that won't happen if you keep trying to pursue every little thing that you see someone else doing. If you are dog paw rescue, and what you do is you rescue dogs from your town in Kansas, and you help adopt them out. That's what you do. And that's so you would you want to open a dog paw rescue in San Francisco? Maybe. That's not going to be for a while. And does that even fit your mission? And so try not to chase the shiny thing. Really just focus on what you do and why you started this organization.
Sage advice.
Okay, that's my 4 tips. Any questions about that piece? Okay, if not, I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah, just any open-ended questions from anybody.
Well, look, we answered everybody's questions already. That's,
I have one,
Great.
if you don't mind. So when you're starting a nonprofit, I'm sure there's a certain amount of paperwork that needs to be filed and filled out. Where would you begin to find that paperwork just to start that piece of it?
So what you can do, a couple things. If you Google starting a nonprofit, you're gonna get the list of what you need to do.
Okay.
But there's different states have different requirements about who you're filing with, because you have to file not only with the IRS, you have to file with your state, with the Secretary of State and or the Revenue Department, and just it depends state by state. So you have to look both places. I have a nonprofit startup guide that's a digital download that's available on my website that has a lot of information like that. It has the list of the paperwork that you're looking for.
Perfect.
Also, and I put in the chat earlier, is that every state has some sort of overarching nonprofit organization. So in Minnesota, it's the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits. Other states have similar organizations. The state resources page on my website has that. And so you can find the requirements of starting a nonprofit on that list as well. So it's going to be a 1023 for the IRS, and You're going to get an EIN and then state requirements on top of that.
Thank you.
Dina?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, other questions? That was good. We did a great job, I guess.
I guess we did. We answered them all. Okay, excellent. So here's Dina, any final thoughts from you about
Yeah,
this work?
just so my final thoughts are, yeah, it can be super overwhelming, right? And I loved what Darcy said about just staying focused. We've had a lot of people that have come in saying, "Oh, you could do this, that, and the other thing," and it's like, "Yep, we could, but we're not going to." Like we've had to stay focused and try and be true to our mission. And it doesn't mean that things can't change down the line, but we kind of put things to the back burner and like, yeah, maybe we'll talk about that later. And we did expand to do 2 different chapters. And so we've been through that as well, and happy to talk through that offline with anybody. But just, you know, you got into or want to get into this for a very specific reason. Find just great people around you that are passionate about the same mission, and you know, you'll be able to start going slow to go fast. So it is the journey, right? It's not a sprint, it is a marathon. And we're here to support in any way we can.
Excellent. Yeah, my just bit. Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. My website, the nonprofitopspro.com website, has tons of free resources for nonprofits. It has podcasts and companies that provide services for nonprofits. It has that expert referral hub where we have, I think, nearly 300 people on there. It's a vetted list of people who I know only work with nonprofits, attorneys, fundraisers, marketers, HR people, things like that, that can help support the work that you're doing. So please take advantage of those free resources that we have, blog on there, stuff like that. So it is, this is great. This is big work. This is really big work that you are trying to do. And I'm continually amazed and impressed by the commitment that people have in doing this work and why they're doing it. Really just to, you know, we're just trying to make the world a better place. And so we are definitely here to help support that.
Yes. And Jessica, you came off of do you want to say hi? You came on screen.
I just wanted to, I've been here the whole time. I just didn't want to, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. This has been so informative and so amazing. You answered so many awesome questions and gave so much incredible information. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thanks
So
for
yeah,
coming.
highly encouraged to make sure you guys follow Darcy's website, check out her resources. We used her very early on. She helped us a lot. We were one of those customers where you came in to help us get organized with our SharePoint and lockdown procedures and stuff. And it was super helpful to have that foundation early on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.